you talked about the working with Black brands and corporate.
Mm-hmm.
So for people that's not even in the fashion world, why is it important for Black brands to work with corporate, and what's the disparities from Black brands working with corporate as opposed to white brands working with corporate?
So 2009, I started to look for Black designers to be a part of our second show. I couldn't really find any Black designers. So naively, I said, let me go to the department stores where we shop. I'm going down the list of all the designers on the department store website. Realized that less than 1% of the designers that were on those websites were Black. Then I went and said, well, how much are we spending on apparel? In 2009, we were spending $22 billion a year on apparel product. And I'm like, this is not matching up at all. Like, how do we represent less than 1% of the designers, but at the same time, we're spending all of this money on apparel? And at that point, I was like, how do I start to get more designers of color into department stores? And that was hard because for the first 10 years of HFRs, retailers and brands, they weren't the ones really rocking with us. It was like brands like Verizon was sponsoring us, or AT&T, or Pandora Jewelry, or Prudential even was partnering with us. It was really difficult for us to get retailers. And so now I'm like, the more we can partner brands up with retailers, what it does is, when the designer comes on board for a collaboration like the Abercrombie and Fitch one that I'm wearing, they can come in and they can just design. They get paid a rate that is fair for them. They can come in and design. They don't have to worry about doing all the things. All the infrastructure is there for them. They don't have to worry about the manufacturing of it. So it's a win-win for both the designer and also for the brand, because they get to tell this designer's story and they get to tap into our culture.
Like, what designer is that?
Which one?
The Abercrombie and Fitch.
This is Nicole Benefield. So she was one of the designers that we showed. She was the first designer that came out of the show in September.
So Nicole Benefield has her own
She has
company,
her own thing.
her own fashion line. So she works with Abercrombie. Is it just Abercrombie, or is it Abercrombie / Nicole Benefield?
It's. I wish I had my jacket.
Okay.
Look, I feel like showing you my tag. So on the label, it has HFR, Abercrombie and Fitch, and Nicole Benefield.
Oh, so it's everybody.
It's everybody
partnership
on the label.
And then that helps her. Explain how that helps her grow her
Yeah,
business.
so it exposes her to a whole different audience, right? So now Nicole Benefield, so Abercrombie and Fitch is sending out marketing emails about Nicole Benefield to all of their audience, right? Their email audience. People are also learning about her story because they did a lot of storytelling in the marketing of it. So it opens her up, and she also gets paid for that.
This feels like when we talked to Steve Stout, what he was doing with corporate and hip hop, where he was merging the two. It feels like it's a similar story here, where you're merging fashion with corporate in a sense. How do you find the emerging talent? So Nicole is incredible, right? But I'm sure as your brand grows, people want to be in front of you. So how do you decide, and how do you identify the next emerging talent to say, all right, this is worthy to be put with a brand?
Yeah, so we have an online platform called Designers Raw. So any designer can go to our website, harlemsfashionrow.com, and once they are in our database, they get invited to be a part of Designers Raw. So really, it's very organic. I have a team. My team is always scouting new talent. So Nicole Benefield came to me through, someone who I knew who was like, hey, you should check out this designer. I'm always looking for who is a designer that I feel like has like a new perspective, like somebody who's bringing something new and interesting and has like a very clear aesthetic of like what they have to contribute to this industry. And then what I also loved about her in particular was that her vision for where she was going was so clear. When you look at her aesthetic from we showed her collection last year too, 2022. So when you look at her collection from 2022 to 2023, it looks like it's just an evolution. It wasn't like one person here and then a whole different kind of ball game on this side. Her vision is really clear. Her aesthetic, I think, is something that the industry needs. She is just a dope human, because we only work with dope humans. with good
It's not a
character.
prerequisite.
Right. And so we knew when Abercrombie came to us and was like, hey, we want to do a collab with HFR, like we either sometimes we'll give a brand like 3 or 4 options. That's what we did with Nike and LeBron. Actually, we gave them 3 options and they were like, we can't choose, so we're going to choose all 3. With Abercrombie, we were like, here's the option. She's the one. And they were like, we trust you.
How is social media? You said you started in 2009 with that vision. At this time, Facebook is prominent, but Instagram isn't yet.
There's no social media. Thank God there was no social media.
How has that changed, I guess, the work that you're doing, right? Because I feel like everybody now has a lookbook on Instagram.
It definitely changes. Like I'm able to see designers. I'm able to literally go to a designer's Instagram page and like walk into their world, like quickly. And I can tell so much just by scrolling up.
So, okay. So what is the problem? Why is there not a lot of black designers? What's stopping black designers from becoming mainstream or penetrating that market? Less than, you said 1% of the money from black people go to black designers.
Yeah. When you think about the designers who have made it.
And is that
right?
correct? You said 1%?
Less than 1%. It's maybe 3% now.
Of the money that black people spend on clothes.
No, less than 1% of the designers sold on major department stores' websites.
Okay. Do you know how much percent black people spend on
apparel?
On like black designers?
So here's interesting. I don't know how much they spend on black designers, but McKinsey released a study. So by the year 2030, we're going to spend, black people are going to spend $70 billion a year on apparel. The other thing that was interesting about that study is that black people are 3 times more likely to switch brands if it's a black founded or black created brand. That just really happened, I think, after 2020. I feel like after 2020, we all were like, if we're going to make it, we got to take care of ourselves. And so with that, though, that's a huge, I think, opportunity for brands. Is a huge opportunity for an investor who wants to really invest in black brands as well, because consumers are now ready to shop the black brands. But the challenge is we don't have the infrastructure. So imagine if we had like an LVMH, like a holding company, an LVMH or a Kering or a Tapestry or, you know, an Authentic Groups type brand or something like that. That was a holding company that provided all of the infrastructure for black designers. Like, think about that, right? And they provided all the operations, the manufacturing partnerships. That's what we've been missing. Like, if we had that, the opportunity for black brands and where they could go is really limitless. What we've been missing really is the funding, the infrastructure, the operational capacity, the manufacturing. Kind of, you address those things, like there's no limit to how far we can go. And it's kind of crazy that no one has really seen that as an opportunity.
Well, I think Kanye spoke about that. That's when he was, I want to go back to that, but before, let's talk about this then. When Ye was like, he didn't have the infrastructure, pretty much paraphrasing. And that's when Sway, that legendary conversation with him and Sway. That's what you're referring to? Because LVMH, everybody hears about LVMH. What exactly does LVMH? What do they do? Because we know that they own all of these luxury brands, but you said a holding company provides infrastructure. So what exactly does LVMH do for all of these brands that they have ownership in?
They provide the revenue for those brands. That's a big piece of it, which then allows them to be able to do proper marketing. It also allows them to tap into LVMH's infrastructure. So what is that? Like accounting, manufacturing support, operational support. Like, those are the things that a lot of times smaller brands are struggling with. Cash flow, you know, which is a problem for all small businesses. You don't have to imagine if you could just go create and do the things that you actually love in a business without having to worry about all of the business operations of what it takes. Because that's what takes small businesses out. It's the cash flow. It's the, you know, the accounting piece.
So was Ye correct in his assessment?
But I feel like Ye also could have addressed that. Yeah, absolutely.
So, in a sense, because even for LVMH, they have a bunch of companies, but there's really like probably 5 or 6 that account for most of the revenue.
Absolutely. I mean, Louis Vuitton is like their number one
The
brand.
number one by
Yeah.
far.
Yes.
Right. And then there's like 40 other brands, but
Yeah.
they don't generate as much, not even close. Right. And so it can offset some things as far
Absolutely.
as infrastructure. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like let's just use Harlem Fashion Row as the holding company for Black brands in a sense where Telfar can exist under there, Nicole Benefield, they could all exist under there.
Yep.
And then we can grow together. I feel like what we've seen, especially from our designers, is very individualistic.
Right.
It's like, I mean, we can use Sean Jump by itself, Fubu
Yep.
by itself.
Yep.
But there's not one piece that holds it all together to say, let's build so we can have an LVMH type situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you look at the fact that Tapestry just bought Capri Holdings,
Right.
right? That's going to make it one of the largest, fashion conglomerates in the U.S. if it hasn't already done that. So if we had that, even if we started with 3 brands, it would be building upon something that could be like a legacy, like a huge legacy brand. I just see there's a lot of opportunity there because consumers are ready. Consumers are ready to shop Black brands.
Yeah.